In the 1970s, a Zen teacher named Shunryu Suzuki opened one of the most influential books on mindfulness with a single sentence. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. At first, this sounds backwards. Shouldn't experts, with all their years of experience, see more possibilities than someone who just started? But Suzuki was pointing at something most of us never notice. The more skilled we become at something, the more our mind quietly closes off to new ways of seeing it. This idea has a name in Zen Buddhism, Shoshin, or beginner's mind. It's not about pretending you don't know things, it's about approaching everything, even what you've done 10,000 times, with the same openness, curiosity, and humility you had the very first time. In this video, I'll break down what Shoshin really means and why staying a beginner might be the most underrated skill for actually getting better at anything. Shoshin comes directly from Zen Buddhist practice, where it describes an attitude of openness and eagerness, free from preconceptions, even when studying at an advanced level. In traditional Zen training, a student is taught that true understanding requires constantly returning to a state of not knowing, not as an act of humility for its own sake, but because certainty itself becomes a kind of blindness. The moment you believe you fully understand something, you stop actually looking at it. Shoshin asks you to hold your expertise loosely enough that you can still see what a total beginner would notice: details, questions, and possibilities that experience has quietly trained you to overlook. The first principle of Shoshin is deliberately preserving curiosity, especially in areas where you already have expertise. A beginner asks questions constantly because everything is new. An expert often stops asking questions entirely because everything feels familiar. Shoshin asks you to fight that natural drift, to keep asking, why does this work this way? Even about things you've done 1,000 times. Some of the most respected professionals in any field, musicians, doctors, athletes, describe deliberately approaching routine tasks as if seeing them for the first time, specifically to keep noticing details that expertise would otherwise let them ignore. The second principle is releasing the ego attached to being the expert. This is often the hardest part because expertise comes with identity. Being known as skilled, experienced, or knowledgeable feels good, and admitting uncertainty can feel like losing status. Shoshin asks you to separate your sense of self-worth from your need to already know the answer. A person practicing genuine Shoshin can say, "I don't know," or "I was wrong about that," without it threatening how they see themselves. Paradoxically, this kind of humility tends to earn more respect over time than the appearance of always having the answer. The third principle is actively questioning your own certainty. In Zen practice, this is sometimes described as emptying your cup. A well-known Zen story tells of a professor visiting a master to learn about Zen, but talking constantly about his own knowledge. The master poured tea into the professor's cup until it overflowed, explaining that, like the cup, the professor was too full of his own opinions to receive anything new. Shoshin asks you to regularly empty your cup, to notice when you're defending an old belief out of habit rather than genuinely reconsidering it, and to stay willing to be updated by new information, even in areas you consider yourself skilled. There's a well-documented psychological pattern behind why expertise can actually work against learning, sometimes called the curse of knowledge. Once you deeply understand something, it becomes almost impossible to remember what it felt like not to understand it. This makes experts worse teachers, slower to adapt to new methods, and more resistant to feedback, because their existing mental model feels complete, even when it isn't. Beginners, by contrast, have no such model to defend. They absorb new information without needing to reconcile it against years of accumulated assumptions. This is precisely why some of the most innovative breakthroughs in any field often come from newcomers, not despite their inexperience, but because of it. Shoshin isn't anti-expertise. It's a deliberate practice to keep the beginner's advantage even after you've become the expert. Here's how to start practicing Shoshin this week. Step 1. Pick one thing you consider yourself skilled at and deliberately ask a basic question about it, as if explaining it to a complete beginner. You'll often notice gaps or assumptions you'd stopped examining. Step 2. When someone challenges an opinion you hold confidently, pause before defending it and genuinely consider whether they might be seeing something you've missed. Step 3. Try something you're a genuine beginner at regularly. This keeps you emotionally familiar with what not knowing actually feels like, which makes it easier to access in areas where you're already skilled. Step 4. Notice when you're operating on autopilot in familiar tasks and consciously slow down to observe details you'd normally skip past. 3 mistakes commonly get in the way. Mistake 1. Confusing Shoshin with false modesty. Performing humility while secretly holding on to certainty isn't Shoshin, it's just a different kind of ego. Mistake 2. Using beginner's mind as an excuse to avoid genuine expertise or effort. Shoshin isn't about staying inexperienced, it's about staying open while still pursuing mastery. And mistake 3. Only applying it to new skills while defending old, comfortable beliefs just as rigidly as before. Real Shoshin means being willing to question the things you're most confident about, not just the things you're new. Shoshin doesn't ask you to forget what you know. It asks you to hold it loosely enough to keep learning, keep noticing, and keep being surprised, even by the things you thought you'd already mastered. Pick one thing you're confident about this week and try seeing it again for the first time. If you found this valuable, subscribe for more videos on the Japanese philosophies shaping how the world thinks about mastery, growth, and a more open mind. See you in the next one.